and welcome to Mondays with Mondene. Good evening, and I'm your host. I guess I'm Edie Mondene. Wait a minute. It's 6 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? I'm excited about this evening's show. Tonight we'll be talking about the modern day doula and what they bring to our great America, the role they play in our society. Now, my great-grandmother was a midwife, and I was going to introduce her tonight as a doula, but I was corrected by our guest. In the Mississippi South during the late 1800s, my grandmother did her thing down there as a midwife, and she is said to have birthed half of Vicksburg, Mississippi. I'm proud of that. Mm-hmm. Our guest this evening is none other than Miss Shafia Monroe. Mother Monroe is a renowned midwife, doula, trainer, motivational speaker, and cultural competency trainer. Shafia has been birthing change all of her life. It was in 2016 that Madame Noor named Monroe Queen Mother of a Midwife Movement for her pioneer midwifery in Boston, Massachusetts, her hometown. It was there she co-founded the traditional childbearing group TCBG, a nonprofit organization whose mission was to reduce infant mortality through home birth services, training community midwives, and providing prenatal education. Mother Monroe served as Boston's primary African-American home birth midwife from 1978 all the way through 1991. And it was in 1991 that 7 months pregnant with her sixth child, Monroe drove from Boston with her family to Portland, Oregon. When she arrived, she was unable to find an African-American midwife for her home birth. So I think it was at that time she understood her mission here. Experiencing the lack of midwives of color in the region, she responded by forming the nonprofit organization International Center for Traditional Childbearing, ICTC, to increase the number of midwives and doulas of color, to empower families and reduce infant and maternal mortality and bring Black midwifery together. We're so proud of her. Monroe positioned ICTC as an advocate for disseminating culturally competent midwifery, education, achieving recognition for certified professional midwives, which is known as CPMs, and more than that, Monroe is the fifth child of 7 children. Her father was a foot-washing Baptist from rural Alabama, and her mother was a Bostonian Catholic. Boy, you get those two together, you have some church. She is blessed to have experienced life in the inner city of Boston and in rural Alabama. She enjoyed ice skating in Boston and riding horses barefoot in Alabama countryside. I mean, she's the all-American girl. As a Muslim, Monroe's parents were activists. She grew up watching her mother advocate for quality public education, voter registration, and fair housing. Monroe helped her father create community gardens in vacant lots of Boston and care for the land in Alabama. You know what? I am so glad to have met her, and I'm glad that she's in our midst. Thank you for being with us tonight and having me here.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Well, it's nice to remember my parents. Thank you for that.
Well, you know what? It's very important to honor our parents, especially
Absolutely.
in our culture.
That's right.
I'm really excited to find out more about midwifery.
Yes.
And I want to know, what is the difference between a midwife and a doula?
That is a great question that we hear all the time. And again, it's great to see you. It's been a while.
It has been.
Yeah, you're
It's
looking
been
great.
It's been what, a couple of years at least?
Yeah, the COVID. So I'm glad that we are all back seeing each other again. It's so important. I think that's part of a place when you begin, that midwives bring people together. Besides bringing forth life, I'm glad you mentioned your grandmother during that time, because during that era, I'm also a historian, and I love to understand from the biblical sense when we hear the two midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, who were the ones that refused Pharaoh and let the first Hebrew child live, which is how we got Moses. Even before that, we have such a long legacy of Black midwives out of Egypt, across the continent, And those same women who were captured in enslavement were the ones that came to this country and the ones that really saved the lives of countless black women and men, but also white women. White women on the plantation relied on black midwives to help them have their babies because they didn't have the resources, and they also didn't have the type of skill set that we had from the continent. Much more listening, hands-on, using the herbs, patience. So a lot of white women really wanted to have that so-called mammy or that auntie with them during their birth process. So midwives is the oldest profession in the world. Because,
wow.
Yeah, it's the oldest. Because
now, we've always heard something nasty about the oldest profession in the world for women. So thank you for bringing that qualifying factor.
Right. So, yeah, because the first, when you had a baby, women came to help you. So we have the midwife, meaning a woman who helps women during their pregnancy, have their babies, and that was our traditional midwife. Like your grandma, she got a sign from the creator usually, or an apprentice helped her out, an older woman said, you're good at this, follow me along. That was our tradition. And by the way, just for America itself, the apprenticeship model was standard. We had lawyers. You learn by being an apprentice, so it's not like an old thing. There are many professions, electricians, plumbers, the apprenticeship model. So midwives the same thing. They use the older woman who taught the younger ones how to do it with 3 to 5 years of following them around. Then we move into, we're still midwives, but now we have education another kind of way where they want midwives to go to nursing school, become a nurse. That's today's type. You do 4 years of nursing, and then you do 1 more, you get your master's, and you're called a certified nurse midwife. We're in Oregon, so Oregon Health Science University is one of the top midwifery schools in our nation. So we have a really good school here. If you want to become a nurse midwife, this is a good place to be. But that's different than a doula. A doula is a support person. They don't deliver the baby. They're not responsible for the clinical care. So with the midwife, she has to take your blood pressure, check your urine. She draws blood. She can read the ultrasound. She is as a medical provider.
She's like a medical. She's like a nurse practitioner in a sense.
Yeah. But focuses on babies.
Yes,
not babies, but focuses on reproductive health.
Yes,
and deliveries. And the doula is a person who has a different kind of training, no medical at all, but understands what is pregnancy, what the issues are, but provides emotional support and education and advocacy. So they're very different. And I think it's important because right now we have a big confusion that, doulas are midwives. I'm going to have a baby, but I need a doula. No, you need a midwife of the baby. You need the doula to provide support.
Right. So the doula is kind of like a birthing psychologist.
I'll say more social worker.
Okay.
Yeah, because even psychologists, you have to really recognize, schizophrenia and depression and a lot more mental health. We don't have that. We don't have that education.
Okay.
We know that you might look depressed. We're going to refer you out. But what we do want to say about doulas is that doulas really for the African American community, but I'm going to say for the world in general, women have always supported women. So it's unfortunate that we had to get a word called doula and make a profession when in fact it used to be your mother who did it. It was your aunt. Yeah. It was your grandma. But because medicalization made it into a money thing, and it's just a long story, Pastor Monday. I don't know how much you want to know about
That's
it.
Okay. I mean, we can listen to this all night because it's very interesting. But something I want to know is that are there men doulas as well?
Yes, I've trained men doulas. I've trained trans male doulas. I've trained everybody, young teenagers, 16. So everyone should be a doula. It's an easy profession because it means that you know how to support somebody, and we know that we have a high infant mortality rate in the United States, which means a baby dies before age 1. Again, the highest in the African American community, second Native American community. And we have a high maternal mortality rate right now. More black women dying but as a result of wanting to have a child. That's not okay. If you choose a baby, you should not die because of that choice.
Yeah.
So the doula is a person who can help them navigate the landscape, how to ask for what they need, how to ask questions, empower them, help them work out their stress, give them resources. So there's been a lot of money right now. I think it was $4.5 million was just put out at the beginning of the year to increase what we call community doulas. So now we have a lot of...
Here in Oregon or?
Nationally, but Oregon too.
But that doesn't sound like a lot of money.
No, but it was nothing before though. So there was no money.
So what would you think?
I've been doing this work for like 20 years. I started in 2002. No one was giving you anything for this work.
Wow.
So now...
So this is a big...
Yeah, this is a whole new thing now. So
wow. I tell you what, how does the birth mortality rate
Right.
affect the African American community or the African American woman or the ethnic woman, as you spoke about, right here in Oregon?
Unfortunately, African Americans have a poor outcome with their babies. So there's 5 reasons why babies die before age 1. And so I always want to say when I do this talk that I want to give my condolences to any family who's lost their baby before age 1. We don't lose our babies at any age, but definitely to have carried your child for 9 months and you go home and whether it's SIDS or you go to the hospital, the baby's in the NICU, and then you don't have your baby. So it's tragic. It's tragic because, you're pregnant and everyone's excited. You're going to be a grandma, you're going to be an uncle, you're going to be a big brother, and all of a sudden that baby's gone. So it is a big deal, and we need to make more noise about it. It's not okay, but people bury their children very quietly, very privately, and we don't see the impact of the depression on the entire family and the loss of a universal citizen. That baby was here for a reason, and we need to make sure that it's being treated correctly to live. So for Black women, prematurity is the highest reason why our babies don't live to be 1.
Wow.
And it takes 9 months to have a baby. That baby should weigh at least 5 pounds and 8 ounces. Anything under that is much more prone to die. So we're having babies born 4 pounds, 2 pounds, or not being 9 months, being 7 months. So those is what's making Black babies not to live to be 1. But the important part is that a lot of it has to do with systemic racism and microaggression. Where the doula comes in, when you're culturally matched, you're a Black man, I'm a Black woman, your partner is pregnant, then I understand what you're going through. So I'm going to validate your feeling. That in itself is going to reduce your stress. It's not like, I was treated wrong. Oh, no, you're just tripping. You must be imagining. We're not going to blame the victim. We're going to hear the victim and say, you're right. What can we do to help? We need to write a letter to the president of the hospital. I'm your doula. I'll go to prenatal visits. I'll be that witness. I'll advocate for you. So that's where we see the doula work making a difference. By having the doula with the family, we're seeing a better story. A lot of abuse happens having babies. People are yelling at you.
I want to talk to you about
Yes.
that. But before we go on, we're talking about doulas and midwifery here in Portland, Oregon, and we're with our guest this evening, Ms. Shafia Monroe. You talked about making noise.
Right.
And making, getting involved. How do we do that? Can you give us at least 3 ways we could do that?
Well, I'm going to say, you being a pastor, I've said for years, and I'm going to say this publicly, you all, masjids, temples, synagogues, churches, we need to talk about pregnancy in the church. We don't hear about nothing. Jesus had a mother, and we never hear about the honor of the mother. We never talk about breastfeeding. We talk about high blood pressure, prostate cancer, breast cancer. We don't want to say the word breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is God's milk. It saves the life of a sick child. It saves the life of an adult person. Breast milk is powerful. So I think the faith community needs to integrate this conversation at the pulpit and make sure there's some type of class. Every church, to me, and mosque should have a women's group around health. Reproductive health. Our young girls are having their periods. They don't know what's going on. That STDs is increasing, more syphilis, more gonorrhea. Nobody knows what's going on.
And we don't hear about that anymore, do we?
Nobody wants to talk about it. And most recently, I was just told by a pastor in Portland, the highest suicide rate are young Black girls 10 to 14 years old.
Wow. So wait a minute. I really want all you pastors, imams, and rabbis and sheikhs,
right,
and everybody else out there who has some responsibility in the spiritual community, do your part. What are 2 of the number 1 deficits for African American women or marginalized women in our community? What are the 2 biggest deficits here?
Being in America. Seriously.
Okay.
Because even regardless...
Expand on it a little
Well,
bit.
what we're finding out, we would think, she's having a bad pregnancy because she's young, she's on welfare, she's on public assistance. But in fact, it's Beyonce, it's Serena Williams, it's Erykah Badu. Women who have 6-figure income and a second degree have a higher rate of losing their babies than a teenager does because they're in corporate America with all the races while they're pregnant, and that impacts their health. So this is statistical data, public health, CDC, National Institute of Health. So this was information is coming from. I'm not making it up. So So the difference is that there's no love for black people in America, and there's no love for black babies. Once they could no longer sell our children, there was no need for us to have black kids here.
Wow.
So our kids have been dying ever since, besides being shot, the incarceration, the poor schools, but it comes out first with not even able to carry your baby full term. So I think, again, back to the churches, these are conversations that we need to talk about because no one knows it. We don't talk about it. It's just like quiet. I remember just growing up, and I heard about infant mortality, babies dying before age 1, and I'm like, I just didn't think. But then I remember being 8 and going to a funeral home with a little teeny weeny casket where my cousin's baby died. Then I remembered later another friend, her baby died. And I realized, you know what? I grew up seeing infant mortality, but no one told me what it was. They didn't say that this means that baby shouldn't have died. We don't talk about the Thanksgiving table. We're not talking about the Kwanzaa. So how do you know about it?
You know,
I learned on a fluke, thank God.
woo, this is a deep, deep subject. How do we ensure cultural sensitivity and inclusivity as doulas? How do we do that?
Well, we don't do that.
Okay, tell us
What we do is advocate for our client and empower them to demand quality care. Because we can't change the system. I'm sorry, we can. Because, we've come a long way. I want to not say that. What I want to say, though, it's not the patient who I call the health consumer. I'm paying for a service. No one gets health care for free in this country. Nobody. I don't give a it's on Oregon Health Plan. If you're paying cash, you got Blue Cross. It's a service we're paying for. You need to give me my service appropriately because I'm paying you for it. And so when I see something that's not correct, then I think what the doula can do is help the health consumer, who happens to be the pregnant woman or her family, know how to advocate, which is to write a letter, change doctors, make a complaint. But if you look across the nation, for black women, it's been very abusive. Being told to shut up, being forced to cesarean sections. By the time the baby's out, you got CSD. They're taking your baby because they thought you was on drugs, but you wasn't. I mean, the stories I hear are just heart-wrenching.
Well, we want you to tell us a couple of those stories in a minute, but you talked about being an advocate, and
yes.
We talked about being some of the people that need to knock on those doors. Whose doors do we knock on? Who do we talk to about this? Who do we demand from?
Well, I think we start in our own house.
Okay.
I have 7.
How do we do that?
Well, by educating our children. I have 7 children. I have 3 sons, 4 daughters, and my children talk just like me. They had full-term babies. My son caught his own daughter. His girlfriend breastfed. They were raised with the mentality. So I tell a young man, before you impregnate somebody, what's your values? You want Similac or you want human milk? Have you asked her that question? Don't get her pregnant. Like, oh, I want you to breastfeed. Well, you didn't tell me that when we were making love. I don't want to breastfeed. I don't believe it. I think it's nasty. Now you got arguments going. So education.
Okay, good.
Education.
How do we get to those that espouse education to our children? What do we do? Do we demand different curriculum? Do we talk to school nurses? Where do we start?
It's so interesting you ask that because, again, being in this work I've been married for 40 years, doula for 20, midwife for 40. From the East Coast, I travel across the country, and I've been many parts of the world. And I've been asking, early in the educational system here in Portland, Oregon, where my kids went to school, why can my 3rd grade come out of class for an HIV class, but she can't get a class on breastfeeding or healthy pregnancy? They will not teach that. I have asked. I mean, we've said why they will not talk about it.
Do they tell you why?
Who knows what Portland Public School issue is?
Well, so who do we get on this program and say, hey, why don't you do this? Who do we talk to?
I think we have to talk to the school board. Maybe we have to talk to the governor.
Wow.
Well,
maybe we should talk to the governor.
But I think in the meantime, until school does it, the kind of belief that I have is that this is a family conversation. The family needs to teach their children. I don't want my child to go to the 5th grade to learn about breastfeeding. I want my child to come to my mosque and see mothers breastfeeding and having that conversation so we normalize it. So when the teacher talks about it later, it's something they know about. A lot of things that I do, as I mentioned, I learned from my parents. It wasn't through Portland Public School or Boston School. My parents were educating. They're educating about the importance of human milk and speaking out and being healthy. So it wasn't school that made me. My parents made me.
Is there any material that we should be looking at? Is there something that we can? Is there a place that you want to direct us to in terms of?
I would say for one, I think families should be taking childbirth classes. So there's childbirth class at Kaiser, at the Healthy Birth Initiative, at Black Parent Initiative. There are a lot of good things here.
Okay, now you just said 3 different places.
Yeah.
Kaiser.
Yes.
And where else?
The Black Parent Initiative.
Wow.
And Healthy Birth Initiative.
Wow. Now, we'll find those numbers. We're going to get those numbers, and we're going to put them on the screen. But one more time, what did you say?
I said Black Parent Initiative.
Black Parent Initiative.
And Healthy Birth Initiative.
Healthy Birth Initiative, and then you said Kaiser.
Okay, but any hospital provides childbirth classes.
Wow. And are they open to the public?
They're open if you're insured. Now, HBI is open to the public, and so is the BPI. But that's the thing still. We talk about cultural competency. We need to have more Black childbirth educators so that families want to go and feel included. So that's where the education comes in. And so even if you don't have a childbirth educator, your doula should be able to tell you certain things. 9 months is 9 months. You should be seeing your doctor, your midwife every month. You should be drinking water. You should be walking. Get your 6 vegetables a day. They're going to reiterate what the healthcare system's telling them. And no, I just want to say I support healthcare. We need doctors, but we need doctors in the medical system that respects our community to drop these statistics.
And support that.
Yes.
Can you tell us a couple of stories that, I'm sure you got 100, but we like to hear some of the most important teaching stories for this moment that we need to hear and actually grab a hold of to understand the gravity of the situation.
Well, I will say a recent story where the mother died in childbirth in the hospital. She had an epidural, and she told her boyfriend, I can't feel my legs. I think something's wrong. He went and got the nurse, and the nurse said, my girlfriend feels funny. She can't move her legs. And the nurse said to the boyfriend, we can't wake the doctors up right now because they're asleep. So she actually died. So So we have another story where a Black man who's with his wife, they were married, doesn't matter, but they happen to be married. His wife, she had a cesarean section. She said, I don't feel right, something's not right. And she went and got the nurse, and the nurse told him that she's not a priority right now. So she literally died in the hospital on the bed in front of him. That's Mr. Johnson, who right now is going around the country. There's a lot of Black men right now who have come together. They've lost their wives, they've lost their girlfriends. There's big movements. The movie that you want to see is called Aftershock.
Now, this is a movie?
A documentary on the high rate of maternal mortality where Black fathers have come together saying that I lost my wife, I'm raising my daughter by myself now. And what happened? An ambulance comes to the door and says she's bleeding. And they're like, is she on drugs? That's all is she on drugs? No, she's having a health system problem. She gets to the emergency room, same question. Is she on drugs? So every Black person's on drugs. So that stereotype that they put, you're a prostitute, you're a gang member, you're on drugs. So you're so busy trying to say what we are, you're not doing your job. And then you're wrong on top of that. So that's where, again, the doula comes in to help advocate, and that's where the education comes in. But it's heart-wrenching, really. The stories are not good stories.
Ooh.
But we have good stories where we have Black families have Black doulas, have home births here in Portland.
Okay.
Good outcomes. I have a doula with them. They breastfeed, and the baby's fine. The child's 3 years old now, and doing good.
Now, how do we contact you? You're going to be able to look at the screen and get this information, but I want you to be able to hear. How do we contact you?
Well, I teach doulas. I train doulas here in Portland, around the country.
You got a new. You have. This is exciting. They have a brand new center. And
we do.
Tell us about that.
Well, I've been training doulas and renting hotels, for 4 days where you can't bring food and expensive. And you can't really schedule because you're not sure when you get the whole day, the hotel date. And so my husband and I decided to go on a retreat, and I said we need to get a place of our own. We made some phone calls, and we were just really, really blessed because we called the person who owns it. She was with her brother in the hospital, said, oh my God, you don't even know. Someone's moving out right now. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. This is so God sent. She said herself, we went and we saw it, 22,500 square feet.
25,000 square feet,
yes,
right?
Yes,
That's
huge.
a big place.
It is big. 3 offices, 2 bathrooms, and a room that can hold at least 60 people.
So what are you going to do there?
Childbirth classes, training childbirth educators, pregnancy days, marriage counseling. We're going to run things for young children to come in and learn this conversation that I'm saying. I'm an action-oriented person. And I want to say really quick to Pastor Mondale about the school. What I did do, which we could do, we need to reach out to our children. So about 5 years ago, I created a program called Sister Care. I went and found young girls at Jefferson, De La Salle, other schools. They came to my office once a week. I partnered with the nursing school, and they learned about health. They learned about their menstrual cycle. They learned about breastfeeding. They learned about just being healthy. And so they were like, ninth graders. And then I see them years later. They all finished high school. Some had children that full term did not suffer any medical problems, just doing really good. So getting our children at middle school is such an important time. They're still formative, and they're looking for us. There's not a lot of support in schools right now. The teachers need help, and the children need help, and the parents are struggling, trying to work their two jobs. And I think that doulas, I want my doulas, my program, to not just help moms, but really be a family advocate.
We could talk about this all night long, and I really want to have you back. We want to be able to support you.
Thank you.
By giving to, how do we give to your organization?
ShafiaMonroe.com. Go under midwife. There's a donate button. We are having our second annual doula training. Our second annual doula conference at the DoubleTree.
Right.
So, if you want to know about what doulas are, you want to come learn to be a doula.
And you're looking for corporate sponsors.
We're looking for corporate sponsors.
Yeah.
So we have a sponsorship sheet. So we have two websites. The other one is smcdoulas.com, like ShafiaMonroeDoula.com. So my name. So SMC Doula. I'm going to spell it, smcdoulas.com. Go to the conference page, and you can look at the sponsorship and just click on any level that you want. So from platinum, 10,000 down to friend, 1,000.
Well, we of course want to do that platinum thing, right?
Thank you.
Poshines is going to be one of the sponsors, but I don't know if we're going to be platinum or not. Listen, our last question for you this evening is, how do we engage with families who may have different cultural practices or traditions to deal with childbirth?
Definitely, and I love that part. I just got through leaving Spokane. I was asked to train 14 women from the reservation. They're all Native American. They had their papooses and their clothes, and I learned how to make lilac tea. You can put lilac flowers in lemon tea and drink it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Who taught you that?
Well, we have
your grandma.
Yes, that's right.
See, the ones who's a midwife. See, and that's why doulas and midwives work together.
Yes.
We work together. Doulas work with doctors. We work with everybody who wants to see a change for a healthy family. We're all in this together. So it's not a he, she, or them. It's a collective work. So doulas, the medical system, the midwives, we form a union to make sure that families have the best care possible, to have a beautiful baby, and they can raise their child to be a universal citizen and create more love in the world. That is the goal.
Universal citizens. That's where we're going to stop tonight.
Right.
Universal citizens. We've been talking with doula mother Shafia Monroe, and we're so happy to. Thank you. There's a tradition in Africa where we exchange gifts for gifts, and we want to give you this tonight.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I was eyeing that because...
Well, you've been eyeing that for a while.
I
wore this to a dinner one night, and she just loved it. So I thought, we're going to make sure that she has this tonight.
And it's important to know that gold is an important mineral out of Africa, very healing. So I'm all about anything with gold.
Amen.
Yes.
Listen,
thank you.
Thank you for doing this evening with us with Mondays with Mondene. And our special thanks to Poshines, who provides us with gracious food, good food, aunties and tanties daycare that provides us with great support and takes care of our children.
That's right.
And if you want to see me in person, join us on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock right here at Celebration Tabernacle, 8131 North Denver Avenue, and we'll be glad to have you. Listen, Shafia Monroe, thank you for being here tonight. And I want you all to know that every one of us,
no, that's an important point.
Every one of us needs to do our part.
That's right.
For God and our country. And I'm wondering tonight if you do your part. God bless you. Oh, I forgot about something. Our producers are sitting there screaming at me. We've got Juneteenth.
Beautiful.
Last week we did our Juneteenth edition, and we talked about the history of Juneteenth. So right at Poshines, if you want one of these, Poshines, by the way, is located at 8139 North Denver, and we're open from 10 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the evening. We want to see you there. God bless you. Thank you very much for coming, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again on Monday night. Now listen, if you like this show, I want you to give us 2 thumbs up, and I want you to hit the subscribe button and leave your comments at the bottom so that we can know what you want us to talk about on Mondays with Mondene. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.
Hey, it's time for you to come to Post Shine. Check out that catfish sandwich. Oh my goodness, is that the shrimp po' boy? Man, look at that chocolate chip cake. Man, I need to get over to Post Shines at 8139 North Denver right now because this food looks delicious. Or call if you'd like, 503-978-9000. And don't miss it, you'll be sorry.
In times gone past, we find ourselves